Happy New Year's Eve. I cannot wait to say goodbye to 2024. This year has totally tested me in every way. Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. It's Nicole.
Happy New Year's Eve, almost 2025. Can't even believe it. And happy almost 2 years to us with the podcast. But yeah,
we have a toddler.
we have a toddler. I am looking forward to closing out this year. This year was not as taxing for me as it was for Nicole, but there was a lot of grief that I experienced in my own way. So yeah, taxing in a different way, I guess.
I was just going to make a point to that, and I forgot what it was.
Well, we're both in our year 9.
About 2024. Oh, yeah, we'll be done with it, right?
Yeah, and then we start the whole new cycle. Next year's our year, Nicole. It really is.
I really feel like next year is my year.
Mm-hmm. You know why?
Like 2024 had to test me, and it's like, okay, girl, you passed.
I'm thinking about your chart, and I'm like, oh yeah, she's coming up on what astrologers call the midlife crisis. So that makes sense.
Oh, great.
No, I think you're in it. Like, you're building up to it now. So,
like, it wasn't what I just had?
That's what I'm saying. I feel like that was like the worst of it.
Oh, okay. Let's hope so.
Yeah. So, what I wanted to say though.
I was going to say, you guys, we don't take weeks off, right? Like, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. And this is usually one of the slower times for podcasts as far as downloads because people are just busy. But it doesn't matter to us. We're still here. That's how dedicated we are.
Oh, we did just recently hit 100, and we heard back from some people I wasn't expecting to hear from. So that was really kind to just be acknowledged for the hard work and efforts we've put in. So yeah, I love that. I love that you pointed that out. But there was something else I wanted to say about that too, Nicole. Cancers in 2025. It's our fucking year. You know why?
Why?
Because Jupiter's going into Cancer, and like our birthday, like I really feel like we need to do some serious ritual work because it's that period of time for like the 3 to 4 days, especially this year after, are so good for us because of Jupiter going into Cancer.
Wait, for our birthday or in New Year's?
Okay. No, for our birthday. Like 2025. Our birthday.
We should look to see if there's a women's retreat or something
in Sedona
for our birthday. Yes.
Oh, if there were ever a place to be, a ritual to do for said birthday for us, it would be in 2025 because of Jupiter.
Seeing if my husband will send me back to Mirabal. But he always wants to come. I was talking to him about going down to visit you when Brianna gets here, and he said something about, and then blah, 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 and then we can go here. And I was like, what do you mean we? And I was like, you're not coming. This is just like a sister's trip. And he's like, but it'd be a lot more fun if I was there. I was like, no, you can't come.
Just a bunch of girls like you, me, Lydia, Brianna. He can't come. Sorry.
But he was like, and then we'll go here, we'll go there. And he's like, Brianna will have so much fun. And I was like, you're not coming.
He does know the spots. I mean, he did live here for a period of time. Mm-hmm.
But it's like, no. Maybe we don't want to go to the spots. Maybe we just want to drink mushroom chocolate.
And rot. And watch
TV. Yeah. Yes.
That sounds so nice.
I know. And he would never. He doesn't get it. Anyway.
Here for it.
So let's jump in. Okay. Because today we're going to talk about self-care and healing as we're going into the new year. And, people like to talk about new year, new me. I think we referenced that in the Capricorn season episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's not us, guys. We are not new year, new me people. However, just because we are not doesn't mean that other people are not. Maybe some people really like the new year as a way to reinvent themselves and really focus on some of the areas, right? People are always focusing on New Year's resolutions, and I thought this was actually a really good topic to kind of cover as far as what's the difference between self-care and what's the difference between self-care and healing, because they can be similar, but they're also really different. Mm-hmm. And I think as we're going into a new year and people are making these commitments to themselves to do better and be better, what better way than to start the new year by talking about this topic?
Yeah.
Shameless plug. I'm also going to be doing a vision board workshop again
Mm-hmm.
on Sunday, January 12th at 10 a.m. I really went back and forth between wanting to do it on Sunday, January 11th, because 111. However, I figured Sunday would probably be just a better day in general.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, by the time of this episode, the link will be up and ready. You'll probably see me promoting it before you hear this episode. Come and join us. Learn all about stuff. Come and learn stuff with me.
Okay, I know we talk about this frequently and often, but like we are going to get it together with promoting our own things and be on top of it because we
It's
don't
a
do that for
block.
ourselves.
Self promotion is a block.
You think so?
Totally.
I
For me, it is.
I think I just forget. So
But why do you forget?
so many things going on. So many tabs open in this computer up there.
I think maybe we forget too because it's not important, and maybe it's not important to us because we feel like we shouldn't do it, right? It's like not good to promote, brag about yourself, even though it's not really bragging, but anything that's like focusing on like me doesn't feel very comfortable. So I think that's why.
I mean, we've definitely talked about this. We had a conversation about this earlier today, especially in Hispanic families. Like, you're not taught to be within your power, or like you're taught to stay humble, and
Especially women, right?
yeah, and like who God knows how to teach a child to be confident without the ego being involved, and like to have that be something that you grow into and it be healthy as an adult. So, yeah, looking for expanders in that space. Anyways, I agree.
All right. So take this information as you go into the new year. Really try to think about am I healing right now, or am I focusing on self-care in place of healing? That's kind of something I kind of want you guys to think about. That's like what I'm hoping one of the big takeaways is from this episode. Okay. So what is self-care? What do you think self-care is, Gabs?
Practices that are ways in which you literally take care of yourself, but it's also a show of self-respect that you have towards yourself.
Okay. The definition I have is similar. So, self care is activities or practices we do to maintain and improve our mental, emotional, and physical well being. So, for example, self care is actually going to vary. Oh gosh, I had this really great self care wheel that I used to use in sessions with my clients, with my adult clients, because we would talk about self care. And oftentimes, what does your mind go to when you hear self care?
Oh, it's usually materialistic. Like going, at least initially it was for me. Now it's not so much. It's like going and getting your nails done, getting your hair done, getting a
Yes.
massage. So stuff like
Yes.
that. Mm-hmm.
So, especially when I was working with the moms, they would, point out those things first, which I'm the first to think that too. Well, my self care is I get my nails done every month, and I get my hair done every month, and I get a facial every month or two, and I try to throw in a massage when I can, right? So, to me, those are like my self care practices. But there's a lot of other practices that can be considered self care. And in this wheel that I had, it had different areas of life. So it was your like spiritual realm, your professional realm, physical, and oh my gosh, I'm forgetting. I think there were like 6 different areas that you could focus on for self care. And when you actually go in and look at it, you realize most of the time, my moms would realize that they were maybe doing better in self care than they realized because it didn't always fall back to those material things, right? Those services that we want to go get for ourselves. Self care can even be, for example, that you follow up on all of your annual appointments every year. So every year you're getting your well woman. Every year or twice a year you're going and getting your teeth cleaned. You are what else?
I mean,
Those are like some of the big
exercising,
ones. Well, yeah, but that's like another one, right? But
another
that people,
area.
well, I think that's like another thing that people think of like self care is moving your body, but
Mm.
it could have been something as simple as even like in the physical realm, like do you have somebody to be affectionate with? Like that's a form of self care.
Oh,
Do you like candles? things like that. So there was a lot of different areas that could be considered self-care
Yeah.
that were not necessarily the things that we often go to and think about, right? Making your bed can be a form of self-care because it actually makes you feel good, right? It like does something to your brain. So those are going to be examples of self-care. Running yourself a bubble bath if you want. Meal prepping, so that way you're not going out and running out and buying a bunch of food that isn't healthy for you and spending money that maybe you shouldn't be spending. That's a form of self-care. And one example that's also a form of self-care that I really struggle with is saying no to taking on extra commitments.
Yeah,
So
that's so true.
yeah,
Yeah.
saying no when someone asks you to join PTA, saying no when someone's asking you if you can, you know, do this favor for them when maybe you have like a bunch of other things going on. Saying no to going out with friends and family when you just physically can't do it.
I feel like we've gotten better about that over the years. I've definitely worked on that because it's a boundary and I'm working on boundaries. So, yes,
Okay.
saying no is a power move.
So, a good example of self care could be you had a stressful day, you come home, you light a candle that smells really good that you love. Aromatherapy is also another form of self care. And maybe you take a long shower and you get in bed and watch your favorite show, or you're watching your favorite show on the couch. So, you might feel really calm and feel a little bit better, but what was the root cause of the stress that you had from that day? And are you addressing that root cause if it's something that can be addressed? Now, if we talk about healing, healing is going to be the deeper process of addressing unresolved pain and trauma or addressing your limiting beliefs that are actually going to create the lasting change. Because with self care, it's going to be oftentimes something in the moment that's going to help you feel better in the moment, maybe that day, maybe the next day. But the healing work is going to help you feel better the next day, the next week, the next month, right? It should hopefully continue throughout the long run, whereas self care is usually more short term, right? My hair only looks good for a month or two, and then I have to go and do it again. My nails are only going to look good for a month, 4 weeks, and then I have to go back and do it. But the healing, it's like, oh, okay, I remember when I used to get really triggered by this, and now I don't get triggered by it as much. And so it's really important to understand the difference between the two because sometimes people might confuse or say that self care is healing, which is going to make them kind of stuck in this like surface level coping. So, well, I do the self care, right? I'm healing. I'm doing all these things for myself, right? All these like self care things. But are you really going in and looking deep inside to what needs to be worked on so that you can actually have healing and transformation? So sometimes people think self care is going to fix me. I'm going to feel better. And you will, right? I always feel better after a massage. I always feel better after I get my hair done. However, is that really addressing the internal stuff that is causing you to maybe not feel so good? And so an example could be maybe think of somebody who has said, well, I had these rituals and I was doing my journaling practices and I've talked about how much I love journaling, right? I think journaling has been super helpful in healing and transformative. However, how deep are you going in those journaling prompts to really figure out what is going on? And well, I did these things to make me feel better. I got these like different physical enhancements, right? We know everybody these days wants to look like a Kardashian. I feel like everybody wants to look like a Kardashian and
The
they're all like
Kardashians don't even look like Kardashians
they don't even look like
anymore.
them anymore.
Yeah.
But people want to look different.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
then so they're doing these things to make them feel better, right? They're getting their boobs done, they're getting their nose done, they're getting their lips done, they're getting feelers, they're getting Botox, whatever it is. And they're still not feeling good. Well, it's because there's something inside of them that is making them not love themselves as they are. So by trying to change their outside appearance, they're thinking, oh, well, I'm going to feel better. And then 2 years later and $100,000 later, because you spent all this money on these enhancements, which if you have it, do it. I'm all for enhancements if you want it. But if you're not addressing the root cause of why you feel like you need these enhancements, all that self-care isn't actually going to lead to any healing and transformation.
I agree. And I'm like very much soaking us all in and very much the peanut gallery in this episode. But like, can we just take a moment to acknowledge Lindsay
Lindsay
Lohan?
Lohan.
She looks so good.
I'm so happy for her that she made
And
a
she's
comeback.
sober. Like, she had phenomenal work done.
You know who else I'm really, allegedly, you know who else I'm really
Yeah.
excited about seeing together and just looking so good? Paris and Nicole.
Yes. Oh my
remember
gosh.
how much of like hot messes they were, and now they're grown and they're so beautiful. I kind of love seeing them back together and
What do
just
they say?
so
Sana.
what?
So, yeah, it's like they that's their, I don't know, their calling card. I don't know what the
I
fuck
don't
it
know.
is.
I didn't watch any of their stuff. I just
Really?
remember them all being hot messes together, right?
Well, Brother Cousin was all about it. Wasn't
Yeah,
that your
but
time?
but I wasn't into them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay.
Okay.
Continue.
So with healing, you're going to be really digging into the why. Why do I feel stressed out about this? Why do I feel triggered by this? Why do I keep repeating these patterns? And so you're going to be like unpacking your emotions, unpacking the trauma so that you can figure out what's going on and actually create the lasting change versus slapping a self-care band-aid on it, hoping that that'll make you feel better forever, because it's not. And an example could be really looking at, well, why do I say yes to people when I don't want to say yes to them? Why do I say yes to taking on these extra commitments when I'm already overwhelmed? Why do I do this, right? Why do we have this people pleasing tendency? And I'm somebody who has this. Like, I'll say yes to anything. Well, I'm trying not to anymore. Say yes to anything and everybody because I don't want to let somebody down, and I want people to like me. So if I say yes to them, then they'll like me. If I say no to them, then they're not going to like me, which isn't true. It doesn't make sense. So I overwhelm myself sometimes by not saying no. And this isn't to say that like one is better than the other. They're just very different. So self-care still has its place. Self-care is still important, but I want people to really just understand that like self-care isn't always the answer when there's deeper work that needs to be done if it's not being addressed. So some really common self-care practices, we'll look at like physical practices, emotional and social. So physical is going to be, I am drinking a gallon of water a day. I'm getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. I'm stretching. And if you guys are in your 20s and listening, and maybe even your early 30s, start stretching, please. You might feel good now. You're not going to feel good when you hit a certain age. Stretching is so important. Mick Jagger, I think, is like a yoga. He's like a yogi guy. I don't know. Like stretching is really important to him, and that's why he can still do all those crazy things he does on stage. Like as you get older, your mobility is one of the most important aspects of your physical health. So start now and don't wait till everything hurts when you're in your 40s. So that could be an example. Even skincare routines, like just making sure that we're like washing our face, right? It doesn't have to be a 12-step routine, but are we just getting the grime off of our face for the day? You know, just like in the same way that we shower, right? Showering should be an act of self-care. So that could be, those could all be different examples. And the physical exercise could be an example. Now, sometimes you might be faced with one act of self care versus another, and sometimes it's hard to decide. So think about, you've had a long day at work and you are exhausted, but you haven't gone to the gym yet. You haven't done your workout for the day. Both are good, both are necessary, right? Resting our body is just as necessary for us as moving our body. So sometimes you have to decide, do I need to go home and take a nap? Am I that exhausted? Or do I want to do this workout? So sometimes you might have to choose between one or the other, but really look at it. Are you just saying you're tired because you want to avoid going to the gym? Or is your body really saying to you, you need to slow down and you need a nap right now? Because what happens when we don't listen to our body and we don't slow down? We get so sick.
You fall apart. Your
You fall
body
apart.
will slow you down because you're not listening. You were forced to do it.
You'll get sick and you'll be forced in bed
Mm-hmm.
for longer than you would have been if you would have just taken the time
Relaxed.
when you needed it.
Mm-hmm.
An example of emotional self care practice could be journaling. Journaling just to kind of get your feelings out, journaling to vent. I had to do this a couple weeks ago. I was fuming one night, had to journal it out. I was still a little bit mad, but I felt better after I got it out on paper. Talking to a friend or a trusted person. And sometimes we just need a really good cry. And I think there's so much stigma around crying, like, oh, I don't like to cry in front of people or I don't want to look weak. But what happens when we bottle in all of our emotions? They like come out later. What?
Well, if you look at people that are overweight, usually it's because their body's protecting them and they're physically holding on to more weight, which is oftentimes emotions too.
Mm-hmm. So it's good to let out your emotions. Like you have to let it out. Think about if you are filling up a cup of water and you're just pouring, pouring, pouring. So all of your emotions are being poured in the water. Well, what happens if you never get any of that water out? If you never release any of that water that's poured into the cup, it's going to overflow. It's going to be the same thing with your body. Your body is just going to overflow and it's going to maybe come out in the not best time. And not saying that you have to cry immediately when you feel it. That's another thing that I think is actually really helpful to understand. If you're at work and you're feeling triggered about something, it's okay to say, you know what, not now, but I'm going to be home in 2 hours and I'm going to let myself feel it then. I think that's also okay too. It doesn't have to be, oh, I want to cry, so I'm just going to cry right now in in the middle of a workday when maybe it's not appropriate or not the best time. So really understanding too that like it's okay to sometimes postpone it, but still let yourself feel it. Don't just keep postponing it and never do it. That's where we run into the problems. And an example of a self care practice for the social area of life could be, and I've talked about doing this before, unfollowing people on social media that you just don't resonate with. I've never understood the whole hate follow. People talk about like they follow people they hate and then they just comment awful things on people that they don't like. It's like, well, why do you follow them? Like, I've never understood the concept of I don't like you, but I want to follow you and see what you're doing. Like, especially with celebrities, I feel like celebrities get it more. And I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to make comments to you, awful comments, and
Yeah,
I don't get
I
it.
don't get it. I think that's just a reflection of them being unhappy with themselves in some capacity.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Another example is going to be creating space for relationships that actually uplift you. So we know which relationships those are. We know which ones drain us. We know which ones actually fill us up and uplift us. So creating space for the relationships that give to you and that fill you up, and maybe letting go of, not completely cutting them out, but maybe letting go of those relationships that are draining or that aren't serving you anymore, and not serving you in a sense that, oh, well, this person isn't doing these things for me anymore, like that I want them to do. They don't ever do favors for me. Not in that way, but just how do you feel? What is the energy like when you're in those relationships and in those interactions with those people?
We just talked about that today.
We did talk about that today.
Mm-hmm.
And so something you could do is, if we're kind of talking about, you know, these relationships and the people, you can unfollow you can unfollow people you don't like. You can mute stories on Instagram if you want to, for people that maybe you just don't want to see or hear, but maybe you can't unfollow because it's such a big deal, right? When you unfollow somebody, oh my gosh, this person doesn't follow me anymore. It's like the end of the world, which I don't get. You can say no to maybe certain invitations with people that drain your energy. And I would also encourage you to try to make an effort with the people that give you energy. Like make that effort to say, you know what, I would love for us to get together once a month for an hour or two and actually follow through on that. And so self-care is really important for us in day-to-day life. We talked about earlier, showering is a form of self-care. Brushing your teeth, washing your face, like doing all of those things. Because what happens if we're not doing those things in day-to-day life and we're, showing up to work, or we're showing up to our relationships, or just showing up to be around people, and it's like, what's up with this person? Like, they haven't showered, they haven't brushed their teeth. Like, what is going on over there? And some other self-care practices that, we didn't really touch on because I feel like we talk about them all the time is, like meditation, breath work, things like that. So, can you take 5 minutes? Can you take 10 minutes from your day to meditate, to start your day in that nice, calm state? Can you take those 10 minutes when you get home to say, okay, you know what? It's been a long day. I need 10 minutes to just recharge for a little bit before I jump into my second shift at home. And that goes a long way. And I would love to tell people, I remember I had a job once and I was so busy and I had so many notes to write and my brain just got stuck and I couldn't think anymore. And I had a supervisor and he told me, go for a walk. Go walk around the parking lot. And I said, I can't go. I have like all these notes to do. It was like a Friday, I think. He said, no, just get up and go for a walk. Take like 10, 15 minutes. Just get up and go. I said, okay, fine. I came back and I was so focused. I was so energized and I could actually get the work done. If I had just sat there and let my mind continue to be hazy, I wouldn't have gotten anywhere. Those 10 minutes actually probably gave me more time to be able to get the stuff that I needed to get done. So don't underestimate the power of taking your 10-minute break, whether it's at work or at home. Sometimes we just need a moment. And that's okay. If you have kids and you need a moment, you guys give them the screen for a little bit. They can watch TV for a little bit. They can be on their tablet for a little bit. You're not a bad parent if you're doing that. You need that time to be able to step back and fill into your cup for a little bit. So one of the things we kind of talked about also was like self-care not being a band-aid, right? You want to also make sure you're doing the healing work. An example could be work has been so stressful. We're going to get away for the weekend. Great. Also, at the same time, can you really look into why is work so stressful? Why are you feeling this way about work? Why do you stay in this job if you hate it? I mean, I think a lot of people stay in jobs that they don't like because they have to, they have bills to pay. But could you do something else? Is there a part of you that just thinks that, well, this is just the way work is and this is the way everybody thinks about work because that's what we were kind of raised to believe. And we just stay in these situations that are not benefiting us any longer. So do the self-care, but at the same time, really ask the deeper questions. Is there something more going on here? Do I need to take a deeper look into this? Am I just slapping a self-care band-aid on this right now? And again, self-care is not a bad thing, but when it's not being used, when it's being used in lieu of healing, that's when the issues can come up. Did you have a question?
No, I'm just
Okay.
taking it all in.
You look like you were gonna.
No, I'm thinking about it because it's true. Like, it's not a band-aid. Like, you really do have to get to the root cause.
Mm-hmm. And so, what does healing really mean? And healing is, again, it's that deep process. So, healing is going to take you out of your comfort zone. It's going to have you really take a look at, why do I get triggered by this? Why does this hurt me? Why do I not like this? And if you think about someone having a toothache, so they have a toothache, they're probably going to take some pain meds to help manage the toothache, right? Oh, this hurts. I need to take some ibuprofen. I need to put some numbing stuff on my tooth, whatever. So think of that as like self-care, right? This is helping me right now in the moment. And think about healing as, well, you know what? Now it's time for me to go to the dentist and they need to fix this. So one is temporarily making you feel better in the moment. But if you have a cavity, you can't be walking around with a cavity, right? If you have a toothache, you need to get that really taken care of. That's going to be the healing. That's going to be the deep work. That's going to be going to the root. And
Literally.
yeah, literally, right? The tooth root. And so when you're healing, you're looking at Why do I feel this way? Where do these limiting beliefs come from? What happened in my life that felt traumatic? What happened in my life that could be considered a trauma? And there's so many different methods of healing. We talked before about what the difference was between therapy and coaching. So therapy is going to help you really focus on things that happened in the past. Coaching is really going to be more future focused. If you have these traumas, you're probably going to need to do your healing work via therapy. That's probably going to be the best route. And there's going to be different modalities. One of my favorites is EMDR because it really gets you to the root of it without having to reprocess and like regurgitate everything that happened. Sometimes that can be really upsetting for people and can really dysregulate them. With EMDR, the good thing is you don't have to do as much of that and you can get it done a lot quicker. You can also look into different modalities like hypnotherapy. That can be something that is really helpful because with hypnotherapy, it's going back to it's accessing your subconscious mind where a lot of our memories are stored, where all of our memories are stored. So it's going to help you do the healing that way. And any kind of subconscious reprogramming work. You can do EFT tapping, you can do visualizations, meditations, things like that. But again, you can only heal so much through positive affirmations. That's not really going to get to the root cause. It's going to be kind of putting a band aid on it. So you need to do more of that deep, deep work. And with the subconscious reprogramming or just any of these healings that we're talking about, even with therapy, you're going to figure out what your limiting beliefs are. Why? And again, so let me differentiate between limiting beliefs and core beliefs because I feel like limiting beliefs gets thrown out a lot lately. Everyone talks about limiting beliefs, limiting beliefs. Let's say that healing is going to help you identify what your core belief are, what your core belief is. So core belief can be I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, I'm not smart, I'm ugly, there's so many, I can't even think of the other ones. Those are going to be your core beliefs. Your limiting beliefs are going to stem from those core beliefs. So somebody who thinks that they're unlovable, they're going to have different limiting beliefs around relationships. I'm not capable of being in a healthy relationship. I'm never going to find the kind of partner that I want to find. I'm always going to keep attracting these awful partners that I've been attracting. Something like that. So the core belief is like the foundation. So think about that as, if you're building a house, that's going to be the foundation. The limiting beliefs are going to be the walls that kind of come up around the foundation. So it's going to help you identify your core beliefs and your limiting beliefs at the same time. And you might be better able to understand why you have certain limiting beliefs when you get down to the root core belief that you have. And there's so much that can go into healing. Everybody's going to be going into some kind of healing modality for a different reason. Maybe people are going to be really processing grief, and grief isn't always in the form of losing somebody because they passed away. Grieving the life you once had, grieving the loss of a relationship. It could be grieving the loss of a person because they passed away, but maybe it's grieving the loss of a person because you guys just grew apart. And so letting yourself feel those emotions, letting yourself get it out on paper, letting yourself talk to somebody who can see things objectively from an outsider's perspective. So someone like a coach or a therapist, again, depending on how much work needs to be done. If there's mental health concerns going on, if there's a lot of, really big T trauma, I would probably say go to a therapist for that. And it's also going to help you understand, okay, I'm repeating these patterns and I don't want to repeat these patterns. And what can I do to release these patterns? What can I do to stop doing this? How can I stop pushing these partners away? How can I stop attracting these partners that are emotionally unavailable? And how can I find a partner that is actually really grounding for me? How can I find a partner that loves me unconditionally? So really taking a look at, why do I keep attracting the same person into my life? Maybe you've dated 5 different people, but underneath it all, they're all the same kind of person. So really taking a look at, why. Why is that coming up for you? How are you contributing to bringing those same kind of men? Ladies, drink from a different well. As oh, as my husband said, stop drinking from the same well.
Go listen to the Capricorn season episode.
Or other ones. We talked about them before.
Yeah.
And another thing you can do is also just reconnecting with yourself. I think sometimes people have a really hard time being alone. People have a really hard time being in their own energy. But if you're not in your own energy, you're never going to really get to know yourself and what your actual values are, what you enjoy. Because if you're just surrounded by other people and you're being influenced by other people, sometimes you can't differentiate between what is yours and what is theirs. So when you're able to spend time with yourself, you know, oh, okay, this is actually what I enjoy doing. This is what I would like to do on my own, and knowing that you can still do that with other people. But maybe you're not somebody who likes to go out and drink. But if you're surrounded by people who like to go out every Friday night, you and your coworkers are going out for happy hour every Friday, and you're going because you want to be part of the social group, but maybe there's a part of you that actually doesn't really like it. If you're not spending that time alone, then how are you ever going to know that you really don't like it? Because there might be a part of you that thinks, "Oh, this is fun. I want to do it." But do you enjoy doing it? Is that really part of who you are? Is that something you value? Or are you someone who would maybe rather go to a poetry reading? I don't even know if they do those. I hear about those, but maybe you want to go to like a poetry reading and drink tea on a Friday night. And that's okay too. Finding what you like is only going to come when you have the time to sit in silence with yourself. So oftentimes people jump from relationship to relationship to relationship. They never really get to know who they are because they're not able to spend the time with themselves. I was single for so many years in between each of my big relationships, and I really got to know what I enjoyed doing, who I was. And because I think I was older by that time too, that by the time I met my husband, I was really able to get this like clear definition of who I was versus, if I had been with him since I was 21 and we kind of had to grow up together. Like, I became my own person. I sat with myself a lot to know who I was and what I enjoyed. But people who are jumping from relationship to relationship, why are they doing that? What are they not addressing?
I just saw a client that literally just did that. I was like,
Mm.
oh, I have no idea if they listen to this episode, so I'm going to refrain to the podcast. I'm pretty sure they do, but they did just that, and I was like, not the move, not what we talked about. So,
Mm-mm. Yeah.
yeah,
And healing, I think sometimes why people avoid it and maybe want to do the self care route is because we talked about earlier, it is so uncomfortable. It forces you to really take a look at your stuff, whether it's your like shadow self or whether it's the stuff that happened to you that you didn't deserve, that you had no control over. That can be just as difficult to sit with. And one of the things that we've been talking a lot about is inner child healing, maybe not so much on the podcast, but just like in our own conversations. So when you're doing inner child work, you might be looking at the fact that I actually really didn't feel loved as a child, or I felt really neglected as a child. And because of that, I'm noticing that I seek validation from everybody else around me because I didn't get that as a child when I needed it. And the way that I'm going about seeking that validation from other people actually doesn't like look very good or feel very good to me. And that can be really uncomfortable because at that point, you're looking at what caused it, that again, you had no control over. And then you're also kind of looking at the role that you're playing in keeping it going, right? And like perpetuating the cycle. Still with me?
yeah. You just have me thinking. Wait, were you using yourself as an example, or were you just
No, just an
speaking
example.
generally?
Just generally.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because at some point it is your responsibility to take care of that healing if even if you weren't responsible and it was not within your control, and that usually happens with respect to the inner child. So
Hmm.
that makes sense.
Now, self care and healing can go hand in hand, just kind of what like we spoke about in the therapy and coaching episode. Those two can also go hand in hand. So, self care can sometimes provide you the energy and the stability that you need to be able to do that deeper work. So, making sure you're getting the sleep that you need, making sure that you are doing the meditation that you need, making sure that you are moving your body is maybe going to help allow you to dig a little bit deeper into the healing work. So maybe you had a really difficult therapy session or a really difficult coaching session and it took a lot out of you. I'll give an example. Sometimes with EMDR, I tell the clients it's really normal for you to feel pretty tired sometimes for the rest of the day or even the next day because the healing kind of continues outside of the session because your brain is doing a lot of work that you're not aware of. So you might notice you're a little more tired and maybe a little foggy for a little bit. So what can you do? What self-care practices can you do when you're feeling that way? Can you go to sleep earlier? Maybe you need a bubble bath. Maybe you need a massage after that. Like, ooh, this was a lot. I'm going to treat myself to something because I actually did a lot of work in that session and I had to face some things that were really difficult. So the two can go hand in hand. And there's a time though to look at, do I need to do something a little bit deeper than the self-care? And these would be some signs that maybe the self-care work isn't enough. Maybe you're feeling really stuck. For example, you're journaling a lot and again I love journaling, but you're also noticing that you are still really anxious. So the journaling is helping in the sense that you're getting your thoughts out. It's helping you release it, but physiologically, your nervous system is still dysregulated and you can't get past the anxiety. That might be a sign that you need to do something a little bit deeper. You might be, again, repeating the same pattern. So I keep choosing these awful partners, or I keep finding myself in these jobs that I hate, or I keep attracting the same kind of friend. And really looking at what is happening that I'm repeating these patterns. Those would be times where maybe the self care isn't enough, and maybe it's time to do a little more of the inner work and a little bit of the deeper work. And healing is just going to basically like lay the foundation for you to grow, and the self care is going to help you sustain it because again if you're doing the healing work and you're really doing the work, not just kind of surface level doing the work but really doing it, you're going to want those times to feel better. You're going to want those times to treat yourself. Maybe if you are doing healing work around your physical appearance, because I know that that's something that comes up for so many people, you're doing physical or you're doing healing work around that, then you know what? Maybe you want to do something to help you feel pretty in that moment because you are doing a lot of deep work to address the why you don't feel attractive or why you don't love yourself the way you are physically. So again, you're not avoiding it, right? You're not just doing all the self-care to feel pretty in the moment. You're actually doing the work and figuring out the depths and going in there. It's okay to also say, okay, now I want to feel pretty while I'm doing this work to support my physical image. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure does.
Okay. And maybe you realize that you are overdoing it in the self-care journey because you're starting to avoid doing the things that you need to do. You're putting off trying to meet important goals. And why are you not why are you not going after those goals? Well, maybe it's because you have a fear of failure. You have a fear of rejection. So that's when it's time to actually look at it too. I had this goal of doing this, myself as an example. I have a goal 2024. My goal was to try to get a business going. I didn't do that. There was a lot of other things going on, but I could have probably figured it out somehow. I could have said no to PTA. Could have said no to PTA and worked on my business. Why did I not do that? Because I had a fear of failing. So now in 2025, I need to get over that, and I need to get it done.
So you need to get over yourself, is what you're saying?
Yes,
Yes.
totally.
Love this for you.
Yes. And another example might be that, again, you're doing the work. You're going through your childhood trauma, big T trauma, little T traumas in therapy, and you're doing maybe daily meditation to help support your nervous system and to help you feel more balanced so that you can handle stress a little bit better than you had in the past. So those two are going to go hand in hand. I'm doing the therapy and I'm doing the meditation to support myself outside of there. Because what do we know about meditation? Well, we know I don't like it. But we know that it helps us to be more present. It helps us to not focus on the past. It helps us not focus on the future and worry about those things. But I'm present in the moment. And you know what? The stuff that's going on around me, it's not as difficult as it has. It's not as difficult as I thought it might be. So meditation is going to help get you into a different state of mind so that you can handle stressful situations a little bit better. It's going to help you regulate your nervous system, because if your nervous system isn't regulated, you're not going to be able to do anything. You can do all the self-care in the world, but you'll never be able to really do that deep healing work, because if your nervous system is just out of whack, it's not going to allow you to regulate enough for the work to really make a difference and do what it's intended to do. So, takeaways, guys. Self-care versus healing. Self-care is, you know what? I'm feeling really tired today and I need a break. So I'm actually going to take a 20-minute nap when I get home. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Healing is, you know what? I've been avoiding this, whatever this is. I've been avoiding feeling this. This is painful. I don't like it. And it keeps coming up. So then you might say, I think it's time to go to therapy. I think it's time to work on healing these past issues that keep coming up in my life, that I say I don't know why they're coming up, but part of me really knows why they are, and I need to stop running from it. And so incorporate both of them. Use your journaling as your self-care practice. You can get out the frustrations. You can take those with you to therapy. You don't have to read it to your therapist, but you can take them and say, you know what, this day, this came up. And maybe you're just kind of reading it to yourself and just kind of recalling, this came up and this is how I was feeling and this is how I moved through it. That can actually be really, really helpful for you to use in conjunction with your therapy or with your coaching. And so maybe you're going to set aside one day that you're going to allow yourself to focus a little bit longer, to do a longer guided meditation, to do some breath work. Breath work is so healing. It is. And I kind of, it's a form of self-care also, but it is so healing because it works on regulating your nervous system. It works on accessing different parts of your brain that you're not able to access when you're just going through your day. That is something that has been so supportive lately. I've been doing breathwork almost daily, and I try to do a longer breathwork session on the weekends, because that I can take with me what's coming up, and I can go and really look at, okay, what is coming up and why? And if I want, I can take that to therapy also. And some different techniques you can do. So we talked about journaling, and maybe you can always look on Pinterest. Pinterest has so many different journaling prompts you can find. But maybe ask yourself, what is a belief that I have about myself that I'm noticing is holding me back? And it can be in areas of finance, it can be areas of business, relationships, your physical image, body image. What did I call it earlier? I don't even remember.
I think you said physical image.
Yeah, just how your physical self.
Yeah.
So looking at those beliefs that you have that are holding you back in any of those areas. You can focus on doing different guided meditations, especially in the beginning. I still use guided meditations, even though I'm doing it more often. I just feel like it helps me stay a little more present. My mind still wanders, but I just bring it back. And I think it would wander a lot more if I didn't have somebody telling me what to do. So I still really like guided meditations. Using therapy or coaching to look at unresolved traumas. So you'll do that in therapy, and then maybe coaching to look at limiting beliefs and how you can make those changes in the future to actually get the things that you're working towards. And one of the reasons that I really love journaling, I'm going to run back to journaling real quick, is because it helps you understand why you do certain things so that, again, you can take those with you to therapy. So, for example, maybe someone started journaling and they're trying to figure out, why do I keep avoiding conflict? Why do I not speak up when I want to with my partner, when I don't agree with something, or why can't I speak up to a family member, to a boss? And as you're journaling, you realize, oh, I actually have a fear of rejection. So that's why I don't like to create conflict, or that's why I avoid conflict, because I don't want to have any of that going on. Which, avoiding conflict is good. However, sometimes conflict can be really necessary. Communication can be really necessary to make sure that we're all working towards the same goal and that we're all on the same page. So conflict isn't always bad. I think sometimes, conflict is seen as so negative, but it can actually be really transformative when done the right way, right? When communication is being done. So anyway, I want you guys to think about this as we are going into the new year, and new year, new me. Do your self-care, guys. I'm not telling you not to do your self-care, but are you relying too much on self-care to avoid doing the healing work? And if so, great. Thank you for realizing that. But what is one area then that you want to work on healing? What is one area that you're ready to go a little bit deeper into for the new year, if that's something that you're wanting to focus on? In 2025, I'm going to be doing a lot more coaching work. I'm going to be doing a lot of work specifically on subconscious reprogramming, clearing limiting beliefs very quickly. So that is something that if you have questions about, message me. I'm going to be eventually, probably pretty soon, having some offers up. So if you want to work with me, if you want to look at, okay, what is going on? Why do I keep doing this? Then I can help you. And I think that's all I got.
I love it. Well done. I agree. No contesting over here.
Are you relying on self-care to avoid doing the healing?
Absolutely not. That was like 5 years ago, Nicole. So I'm way ahead of that game. So I'm deep in the trenches. I went into the dark, and the dark does not scare me. I'm built for this. So, but yeah, I agree. I love the part that you said about how you can rely on self-care too much, and then it's almost kind of like, I don't know, you maybe reach a max capacity and then you're like, oh shit, I have to do the healing work. And I feel like that's where I was 5 years ago, and then at some point it becomes very evident, or at least I would hope so, that it becomes evident that you're meant to do the healing work and go a little bit deeper. So yeah.
Totally. So for the card pull today, I am pulling from the Sacred Self-Care Oracle, which I've never really used this, but I figured since it was an episode on self-care, it was so fitting. So pretty. It's like very feminine.
Very femme.
Okay. Oh, the card that I got was number 19, Deep Breathing. Telling you guys, I've been obsessed with breath work lately.
Look at her.
It has been so good. I'll put a link to my favorite YouTuber for breath work. Breathe with Sandy. Oh, I love him. He's so good. All right. If you guys want to join the workshop, the link will be in there. I'll be promoting it by then, Sunday, January 12th at 10 a.m.
Yay.
And if you want to work with me in 2025, you guys, you're going to get no better experience than working with a coach who is also a licensed therapist, because not a lot of coaches have that experience, have that background, have that training. So I think I'm the best of both worlds, if I do say so myself.
We love that solar plexus energy you're giving up right now. Here for it. I stand. We stand. Good
All
job.
right. All right,
And
guys. Happy New
you,
Year. See you guys in
you took the words right out of my
2025.
mouth.
Be safe tonight. No
Mm-hmm.
drinking and driving. Just stay home. Like,
So
New
much
Year's
better.
is overrated anyway. Do an East Coast New Year's. Be in bed by 9 p.m.
It's the best.
Yeah. All right. See
All
you
right.
guys in 2025.
Bye.
Bye.